Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 237. Stay tuned. Hi, all my dear friends. How are you today? Have you heard the news? You got it. My class is open and it's almost full. But if you haven't signed up, there's still time. Yep. All you got to do is go to drdebButler.com/holidays. If you haven't heard about it, I've created a holiday class just for you. And here's why. The reason I did it just for you is because I know what you really want to do. You want to wait until after the holidays and then you want to start. Just like the idea of celebrations. First, you want to go celebrate your birthday or go on vacation or this or that, and then you're going to start. And this is what I'm telling you. That kind of mentality is why you go up and down all of these years. So I've created this class to break that pattern. We're going to start now during the holidays, and by the time January comes, you will be ready to make this the last time because you will have gone through the holidays staying totally connected to yourself, maybe losing some weight, and more than anything else, learning self-compassion, learning how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, holidays or not. What are you waiting for? Go to drdebButler.com/holidays. Now, to get you a little bit more in the mood, if you're not yet, I have one of my special students from my class here to talk to you. She agreed to come on and tell you a little bit about her experience working with me in my last class. Her name is Michelle. She's lovely. I loved working with her. And I just wanted her to share with you her experience. So please sit back, take a walk, but enjoy this interview with Michelle. And if you're not ready to join my group after listening to her, well, listen, there's nothing else I can say. So enjoy, and I'll get back at the end of her interview and say a few words. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So the reason that I have you on is because you're an inspiration to me. And because you're an inspiration to me, I thought you might be an inspiration to everybody else that's listening today because you just ended my group that I just ended. And I think that what you shared in the group and your experience of where you were when you started and where you are now is worth sharing with other people. So if you wouldn't mind, would you mind just saying a little bit about where you were before you started working with me? Did you listen to the podcasts first?
Yes, I did. I listened to your podcast for probably 6 to 8 months or so.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me where you were. So you were listening for 6 to 8 months. What made you decide to do a group with me, to work with me? What made you decide to do that?
I really needed help, quite frankly, to learn how to free up my mind space. The struggles that I had around food and self-confidence and all that was pretty high, I would say. And I just needed help to get that under control and to have more power over my mind than I had. And the self-talk wasn't great. I just needed help. I mean, I knew I could do it, but I needed some guidance. What I was doing was not working.
Mm-hmm. So you were listening to the podcast for 6 to 8 months. So I'm assuming that what I said resonated with you, you liked what I had to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But did you find that it was just hard to apply what I was teaching on the podcast to doing it in your life? Is that what it was?
I think I needed a little bit more accountability.
I see.
some one-on-one time, even though it was a group, it definitely felt like some one-on-one time at times, because it was just you and I talking several times. But
Yeah.
yeah, I needed a little bit more accountability, and meeting weekly, I think, helped. And really understanding the tools, learning the tools,
Yeah.
hearing your ideas, hearing the ideas of other women and what they were going through and the similarities was huge. Yeah, I just needed some assistance. I knew
Uh-huh.
I could do it, but I needed someone to get through my mind, because
Somebody to
I
get
was
in
tripping
your
up.
mind.
Yes, I just kept tripping up on the same things, as the whole reward, what I thought was a reward. And yeah, I mean, I needed help to sift through some stuff.
Yeah. And so, like, when you're talking about the reward thing, you and I both know what we're talking about, but why don't you share with everybody else what you're talking about the reward thing?
Okay, all right. My husband's birthday was last August, and he had
Yes.
asked me, he'd said, all I want for my birthday is for you to make me a cake with, a yellow cake with chocolate frosting is his big thing. Well,
Yeah.
that also happens to be my big thing.
Uh-huh.
And so I made him the cake, and he even told me at that time in the program, we were doing no flour, no sugar, and he was
Right.
doing it with me. And he said, if you're not going to have the cake, I don't need the cake. So I said, well, it's your birthday. You have to have the cake. And honestly, Dr. Deb, he would have been fine without the cake.
Right.
But I was the one that wanted the cake, and basically telling him he wanted the cake. And so I made him the cake,
Uh-huh.
and for 5.5 days up until his birthday, I was good. And it can't just be 5 days that I was good. It had to be 5.5 days.
That's right. I
And
remember the coaching around that.
yes. And so I felt, since I was good for that long, that I deserved to have some cake and, basically reward myself. And you and I came to the realization that that's what I was doing with food in general. And that's why I wasn't making any headway or any ground on the weight losses, because in part, I mean, there's other moving parts and pieces, right? But
Right.
that I was really thinking that I deserved a reward, that I was
Mm-hmm.
entitled to that I deserved it, because I had
Mm-hmm.
gone 5.5 days. So I would lose, and then I would just not lose. And, you know, a reward shouldn't make you feel bad. It should make you feel empowered. It should make you feel powerful and strong and confident. And that cake did not make me feel those things. It
Yeah.
didn't. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. And then, we worked on the power of a decision.
Right. So let me stop you for 1 minute before we get to that,
Okay.
because this is really
Okay.
important for people to hear, because that coaching that I did with you was a pretty long coaching session in our group. And,
Right.
it started out as a little thing, right? And part of the thing is the 5.5 days got me going, like how many days you had been good, and the whole idea of what is good and what is bad and how you deem yourself according to what you're putting in your mouth.
Yes.
And the whole idea of the other thing is the punishment that went after you ate that piece of cake.
Yeah.
Right. And so the
Yep.
coaching session was around what reward really is, but also around what do you do with yourself when you see yourself doing something that you don't like to do. Like, you put yourself in the doghouse until that class. Like, that's all you
Yes.
could focus on, was to tell me what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Do you
So
remember that?
true. Yes, I do. Screwed up.
You screwed
The
up. I mean, and you had done
self-talk
so
was
many
bad.
things right, and yet that was a focus. And so I think the two things between what is really a reward, and to stop using food as a reward to yourself, but also developing self-compassion, how to be nicer to yourself. Would you say that through that coaching session that helped you with that?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, the self-talk was not good.
That's what you said at the beginning. The self-talk was not good. So how is the self-talk now?
So much, I mean, so much better. It's night and day. It's night and day. It's
Same
crazy how
person.
that voice is, yeah, that voice is just I mean, it's weird. And the other thing too was
What's that?
um how I, well, you beat yourself up and all, but as you're going through the class, the
Yeah.
uncomfortableness that you feel also was a huge thing for me, because as you feel uncomfortable, you're changing. And while you may be uncomfortable, at least you're noticing, because before, you know what I'm saying? It's like you don't notice because you're not being the observer, you're being the critiquer, and you're being hard on yourself. So when
Uh-huh.
you switch that to being the observer, it changes the whole dynamic of your relationship with yourself, when you're curious.
Wow. So, this is another big thing, and it's a big thing about the class. And exactly what you're saying is, would you say that you have a good relationship with yourself now?
Yes. Yes.
Would you say you had a good relationship with yourself before you started?
No, I would
Do you
not. And
think
I would
that
say
that,
my outside relationships are better now because of it as well.
oh, say something about that because that's fascinating too.
Well, when you're not sitting there, struggling with food, or when food isn't top of mind, you're focused on what's at hand and what's important in life. It frees that mind space, so you're present. You're present with your husband, or other family members, or your friends, girlfriends, whatever. A a switch just flips.
So, would you say you're enjoying your life more?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is a really fascinating thing because, most people come into this class because they want to lose weight and they want to deal with food, right? You
Hmm.
too, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. Would you say you got more than that out of it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Way more.
Yeah. So, if I would say to you, Michelle, what's the best thing that happened to you from taking this class? What would you say?
Um, Putting myself first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the oxygen mask in the plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to help yourself first before you can help others. And I have been more present and more able to help others now that I love myself. It's just, it's hard to explain, yet it's not. it,
Yes.
it all
Uh-huh.
comes down to love, and if you love yourself, it so much else falls into place. And also, when you have when you have that mind space open, it just has to open into other places in your life. Like, remember my whole thing with good enough? Like,
Yes.
I
Talk about that.
well, I wasn't, it's like I wasn't doing good enough.
Uh-huh.
And so now that I am doing good enough and better, I look for areas in my life where is life not good enough, and what can I do to make it better?
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah. And you feel like you have more control over that? Like,
yeah,
so the
and I'm observing it more kindly, and I'm observing it more patiently. um
Mhm. Makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah.
So, the other thing that I'm thinking about too is that good enough sometimes can be it can be a good thing too when sometimes you don't have to have your expectations so high on yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, sometimes good enough is good enough.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about that with you. So the only other thing that I really have to talk about when with other people listening for you is we have to talk a little bit about chocolate. We
Yeah, that
can't get
was
out of here without
no.
talking about chocolate because in the beginning that was if I talk about Michelle, it's Michelle and the chocolate.
Yeah.
And everybody in the group knows exactly what I'm talking about. Right? Like that's just
Yes.
so
Yes.
you want to
Yes.
say a little bit about that and your aha moment about that.
Well, every night, I mean, seriously, every night, around 6 or 7, depending on when we had finished dinner, I would have a chocolate turtle. And sometimes it would be 1, sometimes it would be 3, sometimes it would be 6, depending on the day I had. And it was really a lot of emotions around that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I was self-soothing. I was, pushing my emotions down. Well, I wasn't self-soothing, really. I was just pushing my emotions down. I
Good
wasn't.
catch, Michelle. Good
Yes, right.
catch. Good
Right. I
catch.
wasn't self-soothing. Yeah. I was just stuffing my emotions down,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be darned if I have not had, one of those turtles in a good while. It's, but it was something that we really had to work through. And I'm telling you, the power of that -2 + 2, and then the emotions tied to that, um, is really, really powerful, because it gives you that mind body connection that I just had been missing for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized, um, and opened up the emotions about that, and the whole good enough thing, it all really just came into place. And then once we did the no flour no sugar, that definitely helps with your mindset, right? Because it makes it a little bit easier. But and realizing that I didn't need that when I
Well,
thought I
that's
was
probably
so
the
dependent
biggest.
on it. Yeah.
That's the biggest is, and so like, what do you think about the chocolate now? I mean, do you think like, because I want people to realize that this is not a restriction deprivation thing with your chocolate.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. If I wanted a piece, I would feel fine with having one. I
Uh-huh.
just I really don't have the desire for it, you know?
Right. So that's what I want people to hear. It's really, you just don't want it. Right?
Right. The urge isn't there anymore. It's really been dimmed, if at all. And if I wanted a piece, I really do not think I would feel bad about it at all. I wouldn't
Well,
feel
I would
badly.
hope not. That's the whole thing. It's
Yeah,
just a
I mean,
damn piece
that's
of
the
chocolate for
right.
Pete's
Yeah,
sakes.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh-huh. And so that's what I want, the takeaway from this is that in the end, what I wish for everybody that's in a class or a group with me is if, I just don't want it. It's not like I can't have it. It's not that I'm bad. It's not that I'm good. It's not that it's a reward. It's just in the end, and Michelle, this is how you're talking about it, is I just don't want it. And I think you did the work to get to that place. And that's what I want people to see.
Yeah. No, I did, because I'll be on the couch, reading a book or watching TV with my husband, and that time will come up, and I'll just be, God, how weird. How weird was that time? It's almost like I'm looking back at a different person. How weird was that time that I
Oh
felt
my
I needed
gosh.
that? That's so odd. But
I
it's that
do.
observer, it's that compassionate observer. And then I kind of give myself a high five.
Oh my gosh. So, with the last couple of minutes I have left, I hope people are appreciating this because to watch you in the beginning and to watch you now, which is why I have you on here, is that to hear you laughing so freely and knowing that chocolate's just chocolate and that it's no big deal and that you talk about how you love yourself, that this was not how you came in. I just want people to
No,
be very clear. This is not how you walked into this class.
that's exactly right. I did not.
You did not. So, what would you say to somebody right now who's listening and who's on the fence or whatever? And what would you say to them if they're in a place like where you were at?
If you're on the fence, you got to jump over. You got to jump over, because it's so nice. It's so free, and that was my compelling statement, was to feel free around food. And it changes everything. It changes everything. It just seeps into other areas of your life. You have to try it. You deserve it. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your health. You owe it to your family. It's just something you got to do.
Michelle, thank you so much for being in my group
Of
so that I could
course.
meet you and
Thank
coach
you.
you. And
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for being on this podcast today.
You bet.
All right, sweetheart. Bye bye.
Thanks, Dr. Deb. Bye.
Well, what did I tell you? Michelle is amazing, but you know what? It's common. A lot of people, after they're through working with me, feel like their life has changed. Yeah, they lost weight, but you can see it's so much bigger than just weight loss. Michelle's a perfect example of it's not just about the weight, right? It's so much bigger. If this is you and you've been on the fence, what are you waiting for? The class is open, hopefully. I can't say right now because I know when this comes out, the class might be full. But the only way to find out is to go to drdebbutler.com/holidays. And if it's open, do yourself a favor, sign up. And listen, no matter what else you do this week, you know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it again. Please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.